With this being the end of all Yeezy releases, it's fair to say that a lot of these Yeezys will appreciate in value and give you better returns than your typical index fund. With that said, it's certainly worth discussing which of these Yeezys is going to be the best to hold and which ones will be the worst and might even lose you money. Yeezy Day this year is lasting about 2 weeks, and we've already seen 4 massive drop dates. We've seen May 27th, June 3rd, June 4th, and June 6th, and today we're going to be discussing the recent 2 drop dates. And if you want to see the first 2, feel free to check out my last video on this. But Yeezy Day is still getting started, so just make sure you subscribe and enable post notifications because I'm going to cover the rest of the Yeezys in a future video. This includes pairs like the Yeezy 350 Turtle Dove, the Yeezy 700 Wave Runner, and more. Speaking of which, every single day you need to be paying attention to your Adidas app and website monitors because there's constant restocks happening for profitable Yeezys. Like just yesterday, we saw a massive restock on the Yeezy boots, those of which were really easy to cop in all the good sizes, and just today we saw a surprise drop for the Yeezy Slide Onyx, and those were actually really easy to cop too in comparison to some of the initial drops which were much harder. So again, just make sure you're paying attention to your monitors. If you need access to the fastest Adidas app monitor, you could join Endurance with the link in the description below, and on that same link you could also get completely free alerts, guides, and methods to get free food like Chick-fil-A, so why not check it out. Starting with the June 4th releases, first we have one of the fan favorites, the Yeezy 350 Zebra. After these dropped, they actually went up in value. This goes to show that sometimes people try to panic sell before more enter circulation, and consequently they actually end up being oversold. As more enter circulation, prices will still drop a little more in value, but they're definitely still profitable and they were a good cop. With the value averaging around $290 right now, would they be a good hold though? We've seen these restock multiple times and they always do seem to bounce back no matter how much stock enters circulation. Obviously, the biggest bounce back was following their first restock, and while I wouldn't expect that, I do think at the very least we will see prices bounce back to the mid 300 range within a year, and after that potentially more too, considering there really wasn't a ton of stock that dropped and this is the last restock. Now, if these go from $290 to $350 within a year, it's a decent ROI of about 20% more than your average index fund return. And more optimistically, if they were to hit $380 eventually, perhaps after a year, that's close to a 30% ROI. So, despite the value on this iconic pair being pretty high, I still would rate these just slightly above average at 5.5 out of 10, especially because I think this highly demanded colorway is pretty low risk. Next, we have the Yeezy Slide Pure. Now, with most slides, I actually rated most of them above average by a pretty significant degree because of their low starting value, making it really easy to achieve a good ROI on them. This pair is a bit different though, since they have been maintaining their high value the entire time due to a lack of restocks. Unfortunately, I don't think much more will change when it comes to these. If they get back to that 220 range from here, it's still a 20% ROI though, and I think you could achieve that if you are patient. Also, the prices may be even lower when you get your pairs, allowing for a better ROI. So while they might not be as good as the other slides we've discussed, which are starting at much lower values, I'd still say these are still slightly above average at 5.5 out of 10. Similarly, even though I rated most foam runners pretty high last time, the MX Cinder foam runner is a pair that really never appreciated that much, probably just because of the low demand for this colorway in general. I don't think much is going to change with these either. So if they increase from the 105 and 110 range to slightly over 130, that's still a decent ROI because they're starting so low, but it's less than what I'd expect on some of the better colorways that we discussed. So I'd actually rate these slightly below average at 4.5 out of 10. There's definitely better colorways of these you could choose to hold. Now onto today's June 6th releases, and keep in mind by the time you get your pairs when all are in circulation, the prices will probably be at least 5% lower, which would mean there's more room for an ROI when holding. But starting with the Yeezy Knit Runner Boot Sulfur, this is a bit of a weird one. Very similar to the Kids Yeezys and Yeezy Desert Boots we discussed, not only do you have to hold these, but when you do want to sell them, you'd have to be prepared to be a very patient seller. Sale volume is much lower on these, but if you list high and you just wait, eventually you could get some super high sales. So if you could be patient, I would try to wait this period out, and maybe you could achieve one of those $700 sales within a year. Don't be surprised when you have the lowest ask for a while though and they're still not selling. reselling. These require patience for maximum profit. For that reason, I won't give these a rating like the kids Yeezy since they're not exactly your typical situation. This is just my general advice to help you achieve maximum profit per pair. Be very patient and list them high. Next up, we have one of my personal favorites, the Yeezy Blue Tints. Leave a comment below if you're an OG subscriber and you know why that is. These are in a very similar situation to the Zebras. Their value right now is pretty high, but following their prior re-release, they didn't increase as much as the Zebras did. I don't think we'll ever see those crazy $500 prices again, simply because there's much more stock in circulation following the 2023 re-release, but this being the last drop ever, I do think they'll surpass that mid 300 range we recently saw, maybe after a year. I'd say these have slightly less potential than the Zebra Yeezys though, making them just an average 5 out of 10 hold, not the best 350 to hold, but not the worst one either. And last but not least, we have the legendary Yeezy 350 Pirate Blacks. This is a pair that definitely surprised me with how they depreciated a little in value over the last year, and their value is still pretty low for what I feel is an iconic part of Yeezy history and a great colorway to wear. I guess there really just was tons and tons of stock on that 2023 re-release. So even though the last year was not great for these, since they're now this low in value, I do think it is only up from here, and I do think they have more potential than the average 350 V2 would, especially with their current value. I'd rate these above average at 6 out of 10. Still not one of the best holds, but I do think they have more potential at this low value than the average 350 would, especially if you're planning to hold longer than a year. I think the mid 300 range is very likely for most sizes within a year. And that's actually it for the last 2 days of the Yeezy drops, but we have many more Yeezys to discuss because Yeezy Week is not even close to done. Pairs like the Yeezy 350 Turtle Dove and Yeezy 700 still have to drop, so make sure to subscribe and enable post notifications for that. And remember, if you need access to the fastest Adidas app and website monitor, or monitors for every single website, you could join Endurance with the link in the description, and on that same link you can get completely free alerts, guides, and methods to help you get free food like Chick-fil-A, so why not check it out. Endurance is so much more than sneaker reselling though, so if you're looking for a profitable side hustle to broaden your horizons as a reseller, I highly encourage you to check it out. Other than that, good luck on the rest of these drops, and congrats if you copped any.